This week on Streaming Star Wars with Mo and Fletzer, we talk about Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian and Dave Filoni's second shot as director. And while the episodes get shorter, we get more and more of the child. We could take you in warm, or we could take you in cold.
That's my line.
You're our goal to becoming a member of the Bounty Hunter Guild. Is that a good introduction or what on this Saturday night that Streaming Star Wars is live with you? I'm Ammo, he's Fletzer, and Pete. That was my best effort at syncing our intro into our faces so we can talk about The Mandalorian and Disney+. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm happy. I have a tree. I'm feeling very festive. I don't know about you.
I'm impressed with the tree. It's it looks like it's well balanced. It looks like you're ready for the holiday season, and nothing says Star Wars quite like a decorated bush.
This is it's a well-groomed bush. Let me tell you that much. Here on Streaming Star Wars, it is the best groomed bush you'll see on this side of the galaxy. In this household, we celebrate Christmas. I don't know about you, but we celebrate Christmas. We wish everyone happy holidays. It is December 7th, and so we are, 18 days away from Christmas, okay? And so this...
Yes, but only 12 from The Rise of Skywalker, man.
You are correct. So this tree used to be the tree in the household, and the cats maimed the tree. Maimed. I'll say mauled, okay, to stay with the Star Wars theme. They mauled. It was gross. I could think of other words like molest. The tree got slaughtered. Slaughter is a good word. Slaughtered the tree. And so this tree had to be retired, and the future in-laws gave us their tree, and it is this 7.5, almost 8 foot tall, large artificial tree, the wrought iron limbs. It's very sturdy. It's cat proof. That's the important thing. It's cat proof. Things that are not cat proof, though, maybe the script of Chapter 5, The Mandalorian. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. But here we are on a Saturday talking Star Wars, and sand people just randomly popping up. We'll get to that too. It's going to be a fun episode, I think. I think a lot of people have hot takes about this episode. I think that we, Pete, are going to be fair. We're going to be accurate. This is amateur-made Star Wars content. I've had 5 glasses of wine. You've had 1, 2, 3. We're not sure.
I think it's more like 4. Yeah,
okay.
I was this evening. I was at a party for my kids' ballet, and the wine was flowing. The kids were dancing. I wasn't sure I was going to make it home on time for for the episode, but I made it, and here we are. And we're going to have some fun because this episode. There's a lot to talk about with this episode, I think.
I appreciate your transparency. Let's go ahead and jump into live chat real quick and just say hi to everyone that's joining us here on this Saturday night because. It's important to note, we're not always going to be on the night of the episode drop, especially when we get multiple series. This weekend worked out where we said, let's do Saturday night. So hi to Mr. Rez. We've got Holo Chronicles in the live chat. We got Scotty Jarrow down there from the Bombad cast. We got Vernon Johnson. We've got Shauna Zoop. All right. Gave that my best try. And who would want this name? My good old buddy. So glad to see everyone in the live chat. More people are already signing on. Holy cow, we're live chat's going up and up and up. So we want to encourage everyone to be commenting, having a conversation in the live chat. We will jump in there as often as we can this episode. We want tonight to really be focused and led by you. So it's really important that you're talking with us in the live chat. And Pete, let's just start off with a softball. A lot of hype on this Chapter 5. Dave Filoni making his second effort at live action, and it's getting a lot of mixed reviews on social media here in its first 24, 32 hours. Some people really love this episode. Some people despise this episode. Where do you fall as far as, when you look at 5, how do you think it stacks up to the previous 4?
Yeah, it's as I was saying with Marshall Julius when he was on my show the other day, because of physics, something has to fall to the bottom. And as much as I like a lot of pieces of this particular episode, I would have to say, and I hope we don't lose people, but it was not my favorite of the 5 episodes so far. In fact, it was my least favorite, and primarily because some of it felt like, and you know what, here's some hot takes, and I can live with it. Some of it felt like, and I think it was because the acting from who was that bounty hunter? Toro. Hold on, I have his name here. Toro Calican. The actor who played Toro Calican. I'm gonna say it. It's ugly, but it's true. It felt like a fan film. It felt like fan film fiction the way he was acting, and it took me right out of it. I loved um, the fan service level we got, and fan service I am actually a fan of. I don't say fan service is a bad word. But I loved all the positive things that brought us back and were reminiscent of a lot of great Star Wars we've seen before. But gosh, the acting from Toro Calican was just it was really hard to watch, and that pulled me out of quite a bit of it. I mean, there were other things about the episode that I want to get into, but that's really my biggest challenge with it.
Do you blame that on the actor himself not being a polished actor? Do you put some of that on Dave Filoni for being a director that's maybe still learning how to work with actors in a live action setting? Because it's not like he hasn't worked with an actor before. We've seen all those behind the scene featurettes with him in the Clone Wars cast where he's giving them
Yeah.
direction. So I mean, all the actors that have worked with him always talk about how he goes above and beyond to explain something. So is it the first time director syndrome here, or is this just an actor not doing it for you?
It could be a little bit of both, and I don't want to put it all at the feet of Dave Filoni because I think the story was fun. Filoni and Favreau have made no secret of the fact that they are looking to pull on that old classic Western, and everything about this was great from that regard. If you're looking for classic Western tropes, everything from the young gunslinger, the episode name being gunslinger, the young gun trying to make his name, working to try to work with the old hero to try to make his own name and things like that, and then the double cross. It was all there, and it was all a very well written episode. So to your point, it could be that Filoni just hasn't mastered the skill of pulling a great performance from an actor. I was just this evening talking to somebody about we were talking about the prequels, and one of the things we talked about was George Lucas's directing style and how you had some great actors who didn't give great performances, and perhaps that's what this was. Again, Filoni, nobody knows the story of Star Wars better than Filoni. Nobody knows how to tell a Star Wars story better than Filoni. But maybe this was his first challenge with an actor that wasn't quite up to snuff, and it was interesting to see the challenges that he faced, and again the way it played just to me. And I'll check the live chat. I don't think I don't always think that my opinion is 100% right, but that's my perspective on this, and he drew me out of this episode, unfortunately.
Nick Milkey says faster, more intense. And Chris King has a really good point, too. He goes, before we start blaming Filoni solely, it's important to remember the difference between directing and writing. And I think there's a lot of validity to that. Okay, from our understanding, the scripts were written by Filoni and maybe had some influence as far as double-checking some things with the story group. Because that's what we understand the story group to be. They don't create the stories. They're more of consultants for the creators that are actually creating the content. I would say this. There are things that Dave Filoni does really well that I enjoy. I like how he shoots Star Wars. I like how he tells that story visually because he really has studied at the altar of George Lucas, and it's seamless. I think of the shot where the Razor Crest is coming into the atmosphere of Tatooine, and then we see it cruising in towards Mos Eisley. That was perfect for me. There was the sequence of shooting the swoop bikes across the dunes. Worked really well for me. Just the sequencing of how our characters come in and out of the cantina worked really well for me. The rising I'm forgetting the term. It's not like I went to school for 4 years to study this stuff. But the crane shot where it's the Mandalorian walks out of the cantina or whatever, and it's a rising shot, and you kind of see the horizon of Mos Eisley. I think that was all done super well. My concern, where I, for the first time, am like really looking at how it's being shot, I feel like a lot of character shots are flat, and I've got a couple of them in the sequence that you're seeing on your screen here as we go through. Like, here's a perfect example. Like, we're shooting everything like flat. And it's kind of how they shot the Kylo Ren, Luke Skywalker shot in The Last Jedi, which is why it didn't work for me. Like, I don't look like side profiles of anybody. I always like looking at the human face at an angle and slightly tilted down because that's where we look our best, right? No double chin. So like those were the things like aesthetically that I noticed. Like he tells it really well, but like the just sometimes where you had the Mandalorian there, and then the lame bounty hunter, and then you had just the sand people pop out of the ground. That all kind of felt a little odd to me. But going back to the whole point of why we're talking about this, because it was a good point that Chris had. The script for me, it worked for you. It doesn't work for me. I feel like we're repeating ourselves so much in the last couple of episodes. It's driving me up a wall. I mean, how many times do we have to be reminded that capturing Senec will get him into the Bounty Hunter Guild? Or how many times do we need to say that, well, if we bring in the Mandalorian, it won't just make me a guild member, it'll make me a legend. Like, it all feels so repetitive. Going back to the last episode, it's like, it's just like, how many of them had fobs? I don't, that's episode 3 dialogue, but that is my thing. Is it's, we are learning what Star Wars live action looks like, and I go back to the Clone Wars, I go back to Rebels, and I've watched a couple of these episodes lately, and I never felt like they got this repetitive, but the scripts seem very, very basic. And
well, so I think one of the things that, and it's a very interesting point and perspective, and I think this might be where the show is suffering from being short, being 35, 40 minutes, and that you can get away with some repetitiveness in a full hour because you want to reinforce a point, right? You want to bring a point home, and so again, from a writing perspective, I understand why they're doing, but I also understand from a viewer's perspective, as you're saying, that it feels like you're kind of hitting me over the head with it, and I think it's really important though to reinforce that this is the 5th best of 5 episodes, and so it's if this was the first one, I think we'd all feel a little bit differently about it. I think it's because the quality of these episodes now, frankly, I think has been a little bit all over the place. And again, I think they're all really fun. They're some of the best Star Wars we've seen. Oh, it's certainly I have to say it's better than Resistance.
Yes.
It's good quality content. I think that the expectations are now slightly varied, and I also think because Filoni knocked it out of the park in the first episode, we're also slightly disappointed in what this is. Perhaps, I don't know.
I think right. I mean, the people that really here's my thing. When I'm watching a show, I'm really not paying attention to how the shot is framed unless it really like wows me. I'm trying to watch the story unfold. And so when I'm watching the story unfold, I notice the dialogue. That's what I did. I go back and watch a second time. I'm really able to marvel at the cinematic magic. It really worked. We've said it last week. I'll say it again. A lot of the imperfections fans will ignore because it's Star Wars.
Yep, true.
And it's not like the 77 film was a cinematic masterpiece in the sense that it didn't do a lot of things technically correct. George Lucas did a lot of stuff his way. And now we look at it as great. But, it's not a perfectly made film. It did the right things right. That's why we talk about it 42 years later. So I don't want to be too negative about it. We know that Dave Filoni is, doing live action for the first time. And also, you mentioned the variety of quality of all these episodes. Well, this is one of the things that can happen with a series, and we're okay with it, when you have 4 different directors tackling this series. I mean, you have 4 different directors, right, that are doing these 8 episodes here for season 1. And, you're going to get Dave Filoni, or you're going to get Jon Favreau doing at least 1 in season 2. Carl Weathers is going to get to do some directing in season 2. So that's another first timer. Well, I say that. I think he actually does have a few directing credits on IMDb. But again, you're with the variety of eyes, with the variety of creative minds, you're going to have some fluctuation in how this story is told. And we brought this up when we were looking at Chapter 3, right? Because Deborah Chow really captured the action really well. And then when we saw Chapter 4, and Bryce Dallas Howard has a different way of presenting that action with you. A lot of low shots, really trying to make that ATST Raider feel as tall, as towering, as powerful as possible. And so that episode was good, but we didn't say it was as great as Chapter 3. And it seems like Deborah Chow's episode is still the standard of this series, given we're only 5 episodes in, Pete.
Sure. Yep. I would agree, and I think she brought some magic to that episode that I think is still ringing true for a lot of people. I think what's interesting though too is that there's two things going on, and I think it was I just saw it in the live chat here that I'm sorry you've moved on through my chat here. I'm trying to see. Oh, it was 2Med2 who said that this is just made for us Star Wars fans, right? This is made for this is a series that's being made to try to bring other people who aren't necessarily Star Wars junkies like us into it. And so I think that's a valid point, but I think the point that I would add to that is they're also experimenting. Disney and Lucasfilm are experimenting. They're trying to see what kind of direction works best. I think, as we talked about after Bryce Dallas Howard's episode, her episode is great for sort of a more, I would say, a bit more of a dialogue heavy episode. Whereas I feel like Deborah Chow, her episode brought the action to life very quickly, very efficiently, and in a way that was very well received. So I think where I'm going with this is I think that they're playing with different directing styles, different story styles, trying to find their way. As I just wrote in a piece this past week, I think it's like a comic book, though. I think every comic book issue that we're getting, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, is trying to tell its own story. It's trying to make a connection, but different comic books have different writers and different artists, and different people like different artists that do different work for different characters. And I honestly believe that Disney right now is trying to find, okay, who and what is going to work best for this series. I have to say I'm excited that Deborah Chow is going to be doing Kenobi, because I could take a whole season of Deborah Chow without question.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. And of course, we've also talked about it last week on the show. We talked about how she's really making an intimate story about Kenobi, but also taking a look at what's happening on in the galaxy with the Empire trying to develop its foundation, controlling this galaxy. So really excited to see how she tackles that. She can clearly do the skirmishes in the streets, but she also knows how to enhance our understanding and our perception of a character. Interesting question here here in the live chat. Again, this is 2Med2 responding to you, I believe, Pete. He's saying, but each episode is telling a different story and conveying a different message. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that this is all one story. This is season 1. This is an arc, and we get chapters, but they're all sequential. We're not having these large jumps in time from our understanding. The child is still the child in the last 3 episodes. The child has not hit a growth spurt. It still all seems like we're playing within the last couple of days.
Right.
And so now I will tell you this. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of a jump maybe between season 1 and season 2, depending on how they end it.
Correct.
That's totally possible, but I don't, no. I can't give anyone, I think all 5 episodes on their own, they're good. Some are great, some are just good. But no, they're not telling different stories. They're telling the next part of the story, and that's why I do like this chapter approach to structuring the storyline, because it is a nice little start and stop. And like you mentioned before, I mean, maybe we're getting on average 32 minutes per episode. We were anticipating 45 to 52.
Right.
And so there's some things that kind of get fleshed out with more time. But also sometimes I work in news. Sometimes I do a 3.5 minute piece, but sometimes my script gets cut down to minute 15. Sometimes all you need to really tell the viewer is in a minute 15. And sometimes there's benefit to being able to explore certain things and do a full 3-minute feature, for example. So, I think that the approach here is 30 minutes, keep it tight, make it right. And for the most part, I think we can say that's been done. I do want to say this, though, and I really do like Ming's character. I think there's a lot of potential there, and we just didn't see a whole lot in this episode. She's basically a sniper. She gets her butt kicked eventually, and she gets put on arrest. I think a lot of people are wondering, is she alive or is she dead?
Right.
And I think that's for us to play around with, especially with that Easter egg, right? Do you even call that an Easter egg or like a tease at the end of the episode?
All right. So who do you think that was? There's a lot of different theories out there. Let's throw that out there. I'd love to see. We'll watch the live chat while we discuss it. I'd love to see who you think that was at the end. I saw somebody saying it might be Boba Fett, and I never thought of that or bought into that. What are your thoughts on that?
I want it to be Cad Bane.
Oh,
I
Cad
really,
Bane,
I really want
that
it.
would be
I really
fantastic.
want it to be a bruised, battered Cad Bane. Um,
Ah,
you know,
that would be amazing.
a
Yeah,
lot of people are pulling for Boba, and there's like someone that already went as far as to watch like this 1997 special edition when Boba Fett came on screen, and the jingle of his boots are the same jingle as you get with the character that
right.
walks up there. I mean,
Yep.
how many dudes and gals in the galaxy you think are walking around with bullets or shells or
At
something
least 6,
around their belt? You know, at
maybe
least seven.
7.
Yeah, seven, six, maybe seven. Right? Okay, it's a big galaxy, you know, but it's kind of intimate. It's like a small town, right? So, you know, maybe, maybe. If it was Boba, that's great. I mean, but they've been in denial this whole time, you know, and
Mhm.
it's not like Dave Filoni with Ahsoka, where it's like Ahsoka dead, and then he comes back out, Ahsoka lives on his shirt. Like it's not like that. They've all just been saying no. So I'd
Right.
rather not
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be
pretend it's
Boba
not.
Fett. I don't. I think it was an interesting idea. I'm seeing here in the chat, couple Cad Bane votes, totally down with that. Holoc Chronicle saying Dash Rendar. That would be a cool one too. And in fact, if I said it before and I'll say it again, the Bill Burr character who we've seen in the previews, he's got the gun on his shoulder pad, very similar to Dash Rendar. How awesome would that be if Dash Rendar made an appearance?
I think it would
Um,
make a lot of the EU fans happy.
we would
But
all freak out.
but then it's
Absolutely.
also erasing. I mean, then you're in the potential. And Dave Filoni's talked about this too. It's why you have IG-11, IG-88. You got a lot of stories, a lot of fun with Dash Rendar in the EU. And unless, you know, Dave wants to write a book going back and just confirming that X, Y, and Z events happened, I mean, you could potentially eliminate a lot of that storyline with Dash. I think it's I think it's great. I think you use these characters. You know, I'm kind of bummed out because I love the Jedi Outcast games, for example, and I would love to
Mhm.
see a Kyle Katarn in this
Yeah.
series. I think that would be so incredible. But you know, I guess you can have that character without the history of him finding the Death Star plans X, Y, and Z. Uh, uh, but I think you
Yeah.
know what I love that character was because how integral he was to the story. Again, back when that was canon. So you know,
Yep.
it's just all preference. Oh,
Yeah.
Tacoma Comics thinks it might just be that might be Moff Gideon walking up.
Yeah, I think that's much more likely. I think that's the introduction to him. It's a strange way to do it by just bringing him in at the end, but I think that's quite possible. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But we did spend the first 20 minutes or so of this episode talking about some of the stuff that bugged us about it, and that's totally fair. But on the other hand, if we flip this coin over, and I think one of the reasons why so many people loved this episode was because as I said at the beginning, there was fan service galore in a good way. Again, I am a big fan of fan service. I'm also a fan of going back and giving us more story that we hadn't seen before. I think there were a number of phenomenal things about this episode, not the least of which being how much it looked like they literally took a time machine back to 1976, went to Tunisia, and reshot these shots in Mos Eisley.
It was amazing.
It was it was amazing how much they were able to recreate.
I was I mean when I hear the whatever the tower control tell the Mandalorian that, you know,
Mhm.
whatever docking bay was preparing for him and you know Mos Eisley is reading him or whatever, I my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
Because and I said this on Twitter earlier today. I was like or yesterday, I was like, you know, Dave Filoni takes big swings for fans and it pays off.
Yep.
So, you know, whatever gripes that we might have or you might have about how it's presented. The story itself, I mean, to go back to Tatooine, I think is a gutsy play because that's a gamble. Too much nostalgia can be a good or bad thing. And some people will
Yep.
argue, well, you know what, he's doing that to cover up a weak story. I don't buy that. I think it was really well done. And it wasn't like, you know, when he was walking out of the canteen, I thought for a moment we were going to see like the big ship that kind of had crashed in the land, and we'd see a big, you know,
Yep.
it'd almost be like reminiscent of that scene of you know Luke and Obi-Wan's cruising into Mos Eisley. We didn't though; it was kind of a different angle of it, but it was right for me. I really appreciated it. It was enough familiarity, but it still it felt new in the
Yeah.
sense that you know we were returning to this desert. And you know what? For a place that a lot of characters don't like because it's sand and it gets everywhere, we sure do go back there quite a bit in this story, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. But you know what I thought was really interesting was it doesn't look like as many people go to Mos Eisley
Kind
as
of
used to. I
vacant.
thought it was interesting that the streets weren't bustling. There weren't a lot of people in the cantina.
But that's where
But it
those
was,
stormtroopers are on the spikes. I never thought that was. I didn't make that connection when we were watching the
yeah,
trailers, Pete. I mean, I was kind of surprised to see that's where these bloody helmets are on pikes, and I wonder if that's a
yeah.
connection. I wonder if there was, some kind of, big war there, maybe at the end of somewhere around Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I thought that I was really great. I didn't expect to see that in that scene. I actually expected to see that somewhere back on Navarro, which apparently is the name of the planet that
Yeah.
we started this whole adventure on. The other thing that I just loved, and I didn't realize how much I loved them, was the pit droids. When seeing pit droids back, it almost had the same, not quite the same effect as Baby Yoda, because Baby Yoda just
Oh, it's not even
owns
close.
everyone's heart. But seeing those pit droids come back and hearing their clucking and their twittering back to each other was just it was so cool. I forgot how much I love pit droids.
It's the sound those droids make. I fell in love with the pit droids when I got the original Anakin's Pod Racer Lego set because you got a
Oh
pit
yeah,
droid, and it just turned out like at that time Lego was coming out with a bunch of sets that had those pieces, so you could make custom pit droids. I don't know. I was obsessed. I thought that was a great little nod to the prequels, and something
yep,
that I get a little miffed about because I love. I mean, aside from my dislike for Attack of the Clones, I really appreciate the Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith.
hmm
We got a new featurette. I think it was today, where was a lot of narration about how Star Wars is about family and how the story's been told for 42 years, and you have Daisy and a lot of other actors making comments on it. They've got Oscar Isaac on there. They've got Boyega, but there's nothing from the prequels shown. They're not
Hmm.
showing. They're not including really the prequels in all this stuff. They want you to make it's this holistic 42-year story, but the prequels are still not being well integrated into all this, and I'm
Yeah,
sure there's video there that could be used. So to see the Mandalorian and to know that Favreau isn't the biggest prequel fan, but he's come to like the movies, and knowing that Filoni is a fan, this is a little something that it goes a long way for me because I thought Phantom Menace, if you take out Jar Jar's antics, for example, or just dial it back a little bit, like the pit
hmm
droids on their own, that's a cute little funny bit. Like when the one gets
right,
shot through the pod racer engine, that cracks
yep,
me up every time I see it. So to see them back, I thought it was great, and I thought it was really cool to see what it would look like if Ripley would hold a Yoda character. I thought that was cool, kind of like bridging two different movie franchises, and it got me excited. That's an alien
Yeah. I was waiting for the what is the alien called from the Aliens
predator.
movie? I
No, not the
can't remember
predator. Is it the predator? Alien versus predator? I don't know.
yeah. Alien versus Jabba. That would be that's the next crossover. But that's the other thing about this episode. It's funny. The first I watched it twice on the first day, as I tend to do, and you know, the first time I watched it, I didn't love the scenes with her, and the second time I watched it, I thought she was a phenomenal character. It's so funny how these things change, and I think it's kind of classic Star Wars in that Star Wars doesn't always it shouldn't work. Technically, Star Wars shouldn't work, and I've said this before on I think on this show and other shows is, you take that 1977 Star Wars, you take the costume designs, you take all the things, and it just was a lucky piece of magic that all worked together and it came to life. And I think sometimes when you take 40 minutes, 32 minutes of a television show, um, it just naturally doesn't feel the same. I also feel like the music started to come around a little bit. The soundtrack came around a little bit in this episode. There was a little bit more orchestration versus sort of Nine Inch Nails background music. So, which I love Nine Inch Nails. It just doesn't fit my Star Wars.
Yeah, says the guy who went
But
to Tool. Did you even take your wife to that concert?
no, I didn't take my wife to
Oh
Tool.
my
But
gosh, doesn't take his
no,
wife to the concert.
no,
Doesn't show his
Tool.
kids love. I get stressed. I get concerned about the household that you've created.
Yeah, I think there's some issues going on in this household that probably need to be addressed, but probably not on a
Not on the
podcast.
show. I know.
But
I don't
do
believe in
feel-
therapy. That's why I'm on YouTube. I'm waiting for someone in the live chat just to be like,
yeah,
admittance
we
is
should
the first step.
we'll do like Thursday night sort of marriage therapy. It's probably a good idea.
We'll
So,
hold AA. Won't be so anonymous after all.
but I think that I think these episodes work better sometimes the second time. Although, again, the acting for the young bounty hunter just it sucked both times I watched it. Toro Calican. So here's the fun fact.
Okay.
That I found in looking up this. Yeah, it's funny when something really makes me angry, I look up more information about it. So I looked up Toro Calican, and I looked up. So the actor who plays him is a guy named. Hold on, I just had it here a second ago. Damn it, I lost it. Oh, he's played by a guy named Jack Cannavale. Now Jake Cannavale. Now Jake Cannavale is the stepson of an actress named Rose Byrne. Rose Byrne was the actress who played Dorme in Attack of the Clones. So there you go. There's your odd little connection for this particular episode.
I think that's a really good connection. I appreciate you sharing that with the class, Pete. I think what's interesting here, that's great. Both their acting is about the same. I do want to talk about this though. Hollow Chronicles comes out here, and he's like, I think this is Andy. It might be Josh. I'm assuming it's Andy. I bet
It's
the
probably.
loss of Jabba had a bigger impact on Mos Eisley than the downfall of the Empire, and I'm so on board with that idea because, right, the Empire wasn't all that involved in the Outer Rim. There was a presence, and I wonder if there is a presence on Tatooine moving forward from the events of A New Hope after the Empire is down there trying to find C-3PO and R2-D2. Like, I wonder if that, like, Tatooine comes back on the radar of Vader, and I wonder after, because in the comics we learn that Vader was aware of Luke Skywalker's presence
Yep.
before Empire Strikes Back. I think that's a safe assumption, but like he learns, they encounter even before they skirmish, and so I wonder if Vader starts going on a hunt trying to find, I wonder if there's like a race against time, Vader and Luke trying to find, relics and information at Old Ben's, hut on Tatooine. I wonder if there's a garrison that stays on Tatooine, but I think that Andy is right on the money here, though, that the Jabba, Jabba and the Hutt, syndicate, whatever you want to call it, they reign supreme on Tatooine, and I'm sure that once the Hutts, the reign was ended, and all we know is that Jabba died in Return of the Jedi. There could have been other Hutts there on Tatooine that could have stepped in line, but yeah, I could see the entire planet going crazy if the crime organization that had kept everything intact was destroyed. Yeah, are the slaves? Is there still slavery on Tatooine at that point? Are
Good
they
point.
jumping
Yep.
ship? Is everyone trying to get off the planet? Maybe a big ship came and it was like a holiday cruise ship, and everyone's like, "Listen, slaves, galaxy's freed. Get on. We got all you can eat shrimp and a buffet. Let's go." And everyone's drinking like what's that vodka that they drink in space that we learned in the show?
Spotchka.
Yeah, oh my
a
God.
flagon of Spotchka.
We're doing spotchka shots off of Umbarian belly, but like, let's go crazy. And so all the slaves get on the ship and they all leave. It's like Noah's Ark, but more intense and a lot of slaves, right? So they go, and now there's just a few people hanging out in Mos Eisley. I could see that happening. That's a weak storyline, but I could see it working out.
I love the tangents, Dave. You're you should be writing fiction for the Star Wars.
Here, I'm
universe
taking the
right
camera. Stop talking. I'm on camera now. I don't know why he's saying, folks, that there's tangents on this show. I'll let you know that there are not show notes, okay? I've got 5 bullet points that I'm working off of. I actually hit the open animation this week on time, and I brought us in on time, and I made some garbage connection segue to the show. I can't rewind, but I can tell you that it was something about you being my ticket into the Bounty Hunter Guild, because we heard about it 5 times in the show. 5.
Fair. Very fair.
And now everyone watching and listening can hear my microphone rattle. That's my favorite thing, is when people are like, "Don't touch the microphone. We hear it." No, seriously, I had a great time watching the show.
It was, yeah. I got nothing. I got nothing. Let's
Did you really like the
let's
music though? Let's talk about that. You did like the music. You thought the music like
I,
the dubstep kind of stuff on
no,
Tatooine. Did you
I
like that?
felt like the music was more appropriate, more Star Wars. I felt like there was more, a little bit more orchestration, a little less. I've come to really actually enjoy the Mando's theme specifically, just the sort of two notes, and
The two notes.
yeah, very very creative. But the way it works for him, I think it's good. But again, I think that the music just felt a little bit more cinematic this time around. But it was a fan service episode. In fact, so why don't let's throw to
Live
the
chat.
live chat.
Okay.
What was your favorite fan service thing that you got in this particular episode? Let's just see what they have to say. What was David? What was your favorite thing that was just like you knew it was fan service, but you were like, "Thank you, that was awesome."
Well, all of Mos Eisley. I
Yeah.
mean, hands down. And like we've said, we all I think we all liked that, and I liked how it was shot. I like seeing Mando going through the streets. I liked your observation because I think I noticed it, but it didn't register in my mind. Yeah, the streets are empty. Where are all these people at? I like
Yeah.
it more now thinking about what Holo Chronicles said in the live chat because, yeah, if the Hutt clan's not in power, who's in control of these Outer Rim territories? Like, I'm really interested in that now. Does
Yep.
that lead the way to new crime organizations? Like is the Bounty Hunter Guild kind of like the Outer Rim police now in a way? Like I'm really intrigued by that. I don't know. I also, you know what though? I did kind of like the swoop bikes. I like the swoop
Yeah,
bikes a lot because
it
it
was
reminded
cool to see
me.
those come
I
up.
did like that sequence in Attack of the Clones where Anakin is kind of just speeding across Tatooine trying to locate Shmi. Like that's a scene that I thought was executed really well. So
Yeah, I think the way even the Mandalorian was sitting on his speeder bike was very, very Anakin like. So a couple things I see here in the chat are Holo Chronicles love the Tusken Raider cameo. I like that as well. The radar on the enemy ship from Vernon Johnson. That's true. That was very Darth Vader's TIE fighter, and I thought that was great. I'll tell you what my favorite shot was, and it was a fan service shot. And when you watch the episode again, because of course, look, I know we're all going to watch it again.
right.
When the Razor Crest starts coming in to Tatooine, it's the same shot that opens A New Hope. You get the horizon of Tatooine and you get the two moons, and it's the opening shot of A New Hope. And I would urge you all to go check at least that much out of this episode again. It struck me as just perfect, just the perfect take.
Yeah, I think so too. And so here's my thing: is Mos Eisley like a cop out because that encompasses so many different things? Like I just thought going into that cantina was cool, and the fact that the cantina is the server is now a droid. We don't serve their kind, and now it's a droid in charge, right?
Yeah, I was talking to Andy from Holo Chronicles the other day, and he and I were talking, and he likes to believe that it is EV-99 from Jabba's palace. He's out of work now that Jabba's dead. He's working at a bar, so that would be cool. The only thing is his voice was a little bit different, but again, that's just me being over analytical of it, I think.
Well, at least
but
you're honest about it.
yeah, I'm just putting too much on it. It's funny that though through all this discussion and even running through the live chat, very little conversation about the opening space battle. And I will tell you, did you enjoy that? What were your thoughts on the opening space battle?
I think I think anytime you get a space battle in Star Wars, it's a good thing. I was kind of caught off guard though because I liked. I mean, from the movement of the ships, and even in one of the behind-the-scenes featurettes, we saw how that sequence is created.
Mm-hmm.
The one explosion on the top of the ship really came to me like a Adobe Premiere effect.
Yeah,
like it looked like a cheap explosion, but then everything else looked really good. So I was watching. There's some people I follow on Twitter, and they're out of Burbank, and they were talking about how like the quality of the effects kind of like varied in the early goings of the episode, and I kind of noticed that. But it also kind of reminded me of some of those explosions that you see in the original 77 film. So I mean, that's what we want. Like fans always talk about how they want practical effects, and you want it to kind of feel like it's all created in the 1970s. It feel like the 77 film, but be better. That's what you get a lot of the times. And so be made with the practical effects, and every Star Wars story should be made to feel like it's been made by Lucas in '77. Well, I mean, and then that's kind of like what you got here. I mean, it's fine. Like, it didn't really bother me too much. I mean, I noticed it, but I think it's a great sequence, and I did kind of like that little bit where he's like, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold, and the Mandalorian gets pissed off, throws it in reverse, and blows him up, and he's like, that's my line. Like, that's great. Like, that works for me. That totally works for me.
There's two things now in 2 episodes that saved themselves, and what I mean by that is it got an eye roll from me, and then the Mando saved it, right? So the first was the salute from the heavy artillery guy as he flew by the Mando's ship in episode 3, and I thought, oh, come on, that's Iron Man. And then the Mandalorian saves the day with, I got to get one of those, or I got to get me one of them, whatever.
Yes.
And then the same thing with this, with the I can bring you in warm, I can bring you in cold. It was like, are you serious? Are they really pulling that already? A callback, and then the Mando saves it by saying, "That's my line," and I thought that was great. So it's a interesting and fun sort of self-awareness that the show already has that makes it great. And look, we did start this episode by beating this one up a little bit, and it's still number 5 on the list for me because of Toro Callaghan, and that guy. I am so glad he was killed at the end of the episode. But there were so many really good things about it, and I think that's where we are with Star Wars right now. And maybe we can turn the conversation there for a couple minutes as we head toward the end here. But there's so many great things about this, and what we're getting now from Star Wars has now been around for 42 years. We are in a spot where we want to see things again. It's sort of like when you go to see your favorite band when they first come out, you want to see them do the latest album. But it gets to a certain point where when you go and you see your favorite band, you don't want to hear any of the new stuff. You want to see them do the old stuff. And so we're kind of in that point with Star Wars, and you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, because it's not going to sound the same as it did when they first released that first album and toured for that first album. This is not going to feel the same. It's going to feel like they're doing it as a favor to us, the fan. So we need to get comfortable with that. We need to be thrilled by it and not over judgmental of it. And this episode, I was a YouTube video somewhere. They said something like 51 Easter eggs. So I mean, this episode was chock full of again, fan service. People use that as a 4-letter word, but to me, I think fan service is fantastic and important if it's done right. And I think, you know what, guys, strap in, because I think Rise of Skywalker is going to have fan service all over the place.
No, I'm totally there with you, especially on the Rise of Skywalker. Although a recent interview with Abrams makes me think that, he says, we're trying to conclude 9 films, but this is very much the conclusion of this sequel trilogy. So I think you're totally right, and I'm fine with how Filoni brought this in, and we're seeing this all unfold. I mean, here's the thing: a lot of people complained about, and I was one of them. I didn't like a lot of things about The Last Jedi. I've been very transparent about that. But also, I haven't seen The Last Jedi with the whole story.
Right.
Like, I'm still waiting for The Rise of Skywalker. So, I did like this episode. I don't like, I think that I've mentioned things that bothered me. I think the only thing that really bothered me was like the overuse of silence. I think silence is super effective. There's a lot of quiet moments in this episode.
Yep.
But I've only seen this episode with the 4 previous episodes. I don't know what the next 3 have in store. I don't know what the next season is. I don't know. I mean, if this is a 4-season series, Pete, I mean, this is such a small sliver of the whole story. It's like, man, like it might not even matter at all. And when you're able to binge, I like the fact that we get a week in between each episode to where we can have conversations like these. We can speculate on who that was kneeling down at the end of the episode. We can talk about the pit droids. We can gush at these lavish landscape shots that we get time and time again from Dave. But we're going to be able to ultimately binge this series. And I think that if you're able to go from half hour to half hour to half hour and you watch this, 2-hour, well, it won't be that. It would be, 8 hours by the end of this? No, 4 hours.
Yep.
It'll be 4 hours.
4 hours.
You watch, listen, if you watch The Irishman like me and you sat there for 3.5 hours and watched De Niro, Pesci, and Pacino out of their prime give a great performance, then you'll watch 4 hours of this, no problem. When I see the 4 hours of that, I'm sure I'll be really happy.
Yeah.
You know, there you go.
So what is there was so much. Even when we had Bresnikan on the show with us, there was a big deal of conversation about Fennec Shand. How did you feel about her character?
I think she is cool. I like the idea. I mean, I love that they track her down. They find her in the catacombs or whatever those mountains were. She's sniping. I like her look. I like the helmet. I thought that was all great, and I like the strategy there with the flash grenades as they're cruising over the dunes trying to get to her. I would have liked a little bit more physicality between her and the Mandalorian. I think that her going against this bounty hunter dude, who I just call bro. He's just a bro. I went to college with a lot of guys like him. Okay, nice hair.
I'm glad I didn't go to college with you because we all know how I feel about Toro Calican.
Nice
at this
hair, pierced ears. Probably has a weird fixation with belly buttons. I wish I would have seen her be a little bit more deadly. She was tamed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so that kind of annoyed me. I think it's annoying that the Mandalorian went to go get the dude back. He didn't make the kid go and get the dude back. Like that kind of ticked me off. So there's this. I think I built up the Mandalorian to be this very. I mean, he always would make the right decision for himself.
Right.
And I guess he seems a little apathetic much too early on. And that's fine. Yeah, I'm still enjoying the character, but
yeah, I think that's where you and I are. That's one of the things that I think you and I are taking two different approaches on the show, which is fantastic, and again means it's good storytelling, right? And I go back always to Last Jedi. The fact that people are still talking about it 2 years later, whether positively or negatively, it says a lot about how well it was put together, one way or another, right? So when I think about the fact that you and I had two different, we're taking two different, we're responding two different ways to this character development that's being put into the Mandalorian. I love that as great as he is and how strong he is, he's still learning his way as well, and that makes him an easier character for us to follow and really get behind. Again, I also feel like he's not infallible, and I think that makes him interesting. He doesn't make him Iron Man or Superman. He's going to fail. Thank God for him. He's got Beskar, or he'd be he'd be dead already. So.
Yeah, I love just testing the integrity of this Beskar because he's taking a lot of powerful shots head on. It's like every episode, like let's test the strength of it. It's like we get it. This is a really great, strong metal that is keeping our protagonist alive.
Exactly.
No, I mean, I think going back to your original question, yeah, I think she's a cool character. I'd like to see her back, and I want to know who obviously kneels down by her side at the end of that, because is he able to bring her back? Is she able to bring her back? I mean, we don't know anything. I mean, I think it's Cad Bane. Some people think it's Boba Fett. Some people think that it might be Moff Gideon. That would be interesting. Her attire kind of looked Imperial-like. So, I mean, maybe. I mean, who knows? I think it'll be really interesting. But, I think that there was so much emphasis placed on her involvement in the show that week before the debut of Chapter 1 that a lot of fans are hoping to get more from her. And I get that. I mean, the merchandise, the advertising, the marketing, it's there to hype you up. And I think that if you don't get enough time with certain characters, you really get frustrated. I mean, remember, what is it? Who's this sombrero-wearing character from Force Awakens? Is it Zero? Not Zero. Oh, my gosh. I can't remember.
Oh, you're talking about Zuvio.
Yeah, Zuvio. We thought that character was going to have some kind of role in Force Awakens, Black Series figure, action figure on the poster. Never in the movie. Just never in the movie. We think he made an appearance somewhere else. I thought we saw him in the one episode of The Mandalorian at the cantina, but I don't think we did. But it happens every episode. So and it happens with a lot of movies too. So I'd like to see her back. I'm not down with the backlash on social media. There are some people attacking Dave Filoni for being sexist, misogynistic, racist, because how he brought the character in and killed the character. I just think that's trash. TV works faster than a movie. With a 2.5 hour movie, you're able to flesh some things. Like we said this earlier in this show. In a half-hour series, name any series, characters come in and out all the time just to progress the story. and you still
Right.
got some character development. I think the best character development in this series has always been with the Armorer. Like, I need to go back to the Armorer before the end of season 1, Pete, because I really want to see another flashback going back to when the Mando was a child. I want to know
Yep.
what happens when that Super Star Destroyer has the guns pointed at the Mandalorian's head. Is that cut down by a Jedi? Say Yoda, say Obi-Wan Kenobi. Could be Deborah Chow's episode. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. I think we've talked about that quite a bit already. So those are just my thoughts. I don't think Dave should get that hate. He's a lover of Star Wars. He does so much for the fans, as you see in this episode. And I'm excited for his next turn at live action. I mean, for someone who understands Star Wars and like every decision that he makes, I'm like, yeah, I can go with you to that place. I want him to hone his craft as a storyteller because he can tell it. I want him to be able to tell it in all ways, visually, with word, through actors. Best of luck to him.
Yeah, I think that's just it. I think you also run a risk of overselling a character and that or an actor in a role and it does backfire. But I think you brought up a great point, and Star Wars has a history of making you believe you're going to get a character and you get nothing from them. I mean, what was the Black BB droid that literally there was I have the Sphero of it because we thought it was going to be a big character and it came and went. It was gone before it was we even got a chance to know it. So I think these are things that we need to get comfortable with. I think you're 100% right too that characters come in to move a story. It doesn't mean you're sexist or racist because you bring a character in and don't give them their own story. That being said, this is comic book style television. So we, again, as Luke says in the trailer for Rise of Skywalker, no one's ever really gone. So who knows if Fennec Shand is dead? Secondly, if she is, that's fine. She was an effective plot mover. We learned a little bit about the Mandalorian. We also learned that Baby Yoda is in constant peril all the time.
Yes.
And I think that the other thing about Fennec Shand is, and I wish I could remember who it was who said it, and I apologize for not giving the appropriate credit, but I think somebody recognized that Shand was the last name of one of the characters in Conja Club. So there's a connection there, right? And Han Solo had problems with Conja Club. Shand, it may be a name that's synonymous with a particular
very interesting
sort of hunting group. So
yeah,
it's a really interesting sort of connection. So, but that's Star Wars. It's full of connections. And I think, Dave, we might have been talking offline about this, about how I used to get really kind of irritated that there's so much direct connection between characters in a very large universe in a very small area. But again, at the end of the day, it's Star Wars, and it's these characters we're learning about. They're part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because right now we are getting so much Star Wars content, and I want to be patient because I just want to have fun. And so it's so easy to, like, you can nitpick anything. I don't know. I got hit up by Twitter yesterday by some dude who just, tied into me because I was praising Filoni for the fan service. And, they're by far the two worst episodes of the whatever. Listen, like, if you're looking for a problem, you're going to find a problem.
Sure.
But if you're just going to watch the Star Wars and just be like, oh, wow, this is good Star Wars, then you're going to have a good time. If you want to hate it, you're going to find a way to hate it. And I think that there's so much world building here that's happening. I could easily see, it's like wine. We drank a lot of wine tonight, Pete.
Yes, we did.
It ages well. And I can see this series overall like aging really well with fans. And it's just like, if you didn't like the prequels and you don't like the sequel trilogy, and now you don't like The Mandalorian, it's like maybe you're the problem if you're still finding issue with every little thing. I mean, like, I'm down. I think that, like I said before, my previous point, I think when I get to watch the whole season with one sit down, I think it's all overall, I think it's going to sit really well with me. And I think that if the approach is to have 4 or 5 different directors on a season, and they're going to do this chapter like installments of this arc, you're going to get, it's going to be a little different each time, but that's okay because it's creating this pool of talent to go direct your Kenobi and maybe your Maul Disney Plus series, if that's going to happen, or whatever your Solo 2 sequel on Disney Plus is. You're going to have this pool of talent to really usher in the next era of Star Wars, because it's going to get weird and crazy and at the same time fun and exhilarating after the Rise of Skywalker, because there's going to be basically no rules. Like the Skywalker saga is complete, and that's kind of been the overall framework for Star Wars for 42 years. So now it's, here you go, Kathleen Kennedy. Here you go, Lucasfilm and Disney. This is now this sandbox has basically been completely cleaned out. It's like when you leave your cats on vacation for 3 days, right? And they just load up that litter box. You come back, there's a smell. You walk in the house, you got to get rid of the smell. You got to get all fresh new sand and litter into that, and then it's free for them to play in again. It's the same concept here, okay? Cats and litter box, Pete. It's all connected. Everything's connected.
It's poetry. It rhymes.
It's Star Wars. It's all connected, no matter what.
I'm looking.
There's books in Star Wars now, Pete. There's books in Star Wars.
That's right. Anything can happen.
It can happen because The Last Jedi did it.
In the last, yeah. But it's funny. And that reaction, by the way, was not a dislike of Last Skywalker. It was, Last Jedi. Either. It was a reaction to just people still talking about it. But
I'm here to have fun. Well, people talk. But see, when people say that though, Pete, it's like it's 42 years later, and we're still talking about A New Hope because people like it or they dislike it. They have takes. I mean, it's like it's not surprising if no one was talking about The Last Jedi today. That there's a huge problem there. Okay.
Well, true.
They're making these movies we talked about for hundreds of years.
Right. Well, it's funny. I was just reading there's a Time magazine which came out, which has all it's sort of a recap of Star Wars up to today, and it's got the original reviews, and the reviewers of Return of the Jedi liked it better than Empire, and I don't know too many people that pick Return of the Jedi over Empire this 40 years later. So it is true. It is all about history. And I saw it, I think it was John Bauman here in the chat who said he liked episode 4 more the second time he saw it. And I think that's kind of where we are with this. It's these shows, I think part of it is what we bring to it, right? It's sort of like, it's sort of the dark tree on Dagobah. It's only what you get from it is what you bring into it. And I think we go in.
That's what my dad told me about college.
Right. Whatever Star Wars we see, whether it's The Phantom Menace or The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, we're going in with an expectation that honestly, there is zero chance that every single piece of our expectation can be hit. So I think, look, I said it before, I'll say it again. We started this episode with 20 minutes of nitpicking. And you know what? If all we're doing is nitpicking, that's fantastic. That means that we are getting some fantastic content from Filoni, from Favreau, and we love it. And we're bothered by it not because it's failing, but because we're bringing sort of an expectation that can't be met. And then it's interesting that the second and third watches of these episodes is getting a little bit more of a positive response.
Yes, and while we're about to just hit an hour mark here on the episode, we'll probably wrap up this conversation shortly. And we want to say thank you. We hit more than 20 folks. We had 21 people in the live audience tonight. That is a new record for streaming Star Wars. Every time we get together for a Star Wars conversation, we're always just trying to expand our live audience, and we love climbing those numbers. So we're at 19 right now. If we can get up to 30, if you can help us right now by hitting the share button, getting 30 people in the live chat tonight, let's really smash this record tonight on Streaming Star Wars. We want to say thank you for joining us for this 5th installment of Streaming Star Wars. I do want to take a moment real quick, Pete, and I just want to take a look at the chapters here for the rest of Season 1. Okay, so we have Rick Famuyiwa, who is going to be directing Chapter 6. That's going to drop this coming Friday, December 13th. That story is by Christopher Yost. And then Rick and Christopher collaborated on that script. Jon Favreau wrote Chapter 7 and Chapter 8 scripts. Chapter
Mhm.
8 will be directed by Deborah Chow. That's on December 18th. A lot of speculation. I'm excited about it, but there's a lot of speculation. No merit, no truth to this. But they do think that there's a chance that we might be getting back to the armorer, or we might somehow might be getting back to those flashbacks with the Mandalorian, and it would be Obi-Wan Kenobi slashing down the Super Destroyer droid
Mm.
in hopes of giving us a little sample of what we're going to get with little Kenobi little tie-in there for the Kenobi series in production. But that I think is also a stretch. It would make more sense for it to be Yoda, right? Because the child looks like Yoda, and Yoda could save the Mando's life then during the Clone Wars. I'm just saying. But if it's on Mandalore, yeah, it could be Kenobi. And then Taika Waititi is directing Episode 8, Chapter 8, which would be really cool if somehow, and this is a stretch too, I'd love to see IG-11 come back in the season finale. I think that would make a lot of sense. And there's a lot of people who think that the really simple way to do that is that IG-11's processor somehow like sync to a bunch of different bodies, and so there's like a lot of IG-11s. Or maybe he becomes IG-11 or IG-12. I don't know, but I think that'd be a lot of fun. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, here's my thought, and I've felt this since I guess episode 2 or 3. Once we started seeing that all the promotional characters we were getting had come and gone in one episode, I believe that he's building his team, and I think either to start episode 8 or to end episode 8, all these guys are going to get back together. I think I've heard a similar theory on the IG-11, that there's an IG-11 and an IG-12 and an IG-13 and 14, and they're all somehow related. I do believe we're going to see. I'd be shocked if we don't see Cara Dune again. I would put a large bet on seeing Werner Herzog's character again. I would put a large amount of money on even possibly Kuil coming back into it. I feel like these are characters that were written, promoted, and designed to, again, in that comic book style, to have gotten their own issue and will come in and join the story at some point again in the future. And he's offered up the creation of a quote unquote crew, which seems to be a sort of a standard operating procedure for Star Wars scoundrels. So, and none of them seem to be able to put one together very well. So maybe the Mandalorian can break that mold. But I do believe that we're going to see them again. It would be a sin to have Cara Dune in simply one episode, and I would be shocked if we went down that road.
I want to find out where this blue Twi'lek is. We got a lot of stuff in the promotional content for the Mandalorian. It really seems like we've got either this other crew of bounty hunters that need to come into the mix here soon, or the Mandalorian's crew is actually about to be assembled. We got a lot to make happen here in 3 episodes, unless they're. My assumption is that we've seen nothing for season 2. Like we've only seen things from season 1. So,
yep.
And that leads me down a whole nother thing. If this crew is really going to expand, can this crew completely exist in the Razor Crest? Or is there a new ship that needs to be acquired? These are the things that I think about when I'm up late at night, wondering why I have no friends. Because I graduated college and I moved to a small town USA, which I'm very happy living in. But they don't come and visit me, and they're not watching this show, so I can be honest with you. This is my
sounds
therapy.
like we're starting your therapy session.
I know.
Right?
20 minutes left. 20 minutes left. No, we've been going for an hour. I want to say again, thanks to everyone in the live chat, and real quick, Pete, if I can just run through this real quick, I just want to remind everybody the best place to follow us, as far as streaming Star Wars is concerned, is at StreamingSW on Twitter. If you're on Twitter and you don't follow us there already, please go ahead and do so. Pete crushes social media on the daily. I'll jump on there once in a while and comment or something, or I'll share the rewind of our episodes. But that's really a great place for you to know what exactly is going on with our show, and we encourage you to share, retweet, like, all that stuff, just because we're really trying to make sure we do our best spreading the word, making sure everybody who's anybody knows about streaming Star Wars. And of course, you're watching right now on the Beyond the Blast Doors YouTube channel. You can also find us on the Around the Galaxy podcast stream. So here we are on a Saturday doing our live episode. So tomorrow, the audio version will drop on the Around the Galaxy stream. So YouTube, Twitter, those are the spots where you can have the Star Wars conversation with us. And of course, whether you follow Beyond the Blast Doors around the galaxy or my personal account, BTBD David, or Pete's Pete Fletzer or at Fletzer Pete, those are all just great tools that we use to talk with you, and we are really thankful that we get to do this every week with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a lot of fun, and that's this is what's been such a great thing, and just to thank all of you, echo Dave's comments. This is we get to hang out and talk Star Wars to each other. We love talking Star Wars, Dave and I, to one another, but to then be joined by 20, 30 people in the chat and be looking at your conversations. It's like Star Wars Celebration every Friday or Saturday night. It's really a lot of fun, and we can't thank you guys enough for being a part of it with us.
And it's free.
Thank you so much. And it's free. You don't have to fly to Anaheim.
No airfare.
That's right.
No airfare.
That's right.
No hotel room. No Uber. You
Right.
just log on.
And you're just paying
Right.
house prices for drinks, man. I mean, you're not paying bar drinks prices. It's crazy.
I bought a $6 bottle of water at Star Wars Celebration last year in Chicago.
$6?
I kid you
in
not.
Chicago?
Yeah, so we're in Chicago, right? And so the facility was awesome, but the food court was in the middle of the space, and you had to go up the stairs. And yeah, it was like a $6 water, and it was like a $10 burger. I don't know. I mean, my recommendation is when you go to Anaheim in Anaheim, right? This year or in 2020.
Yep.
Eat out eat out. Like go and try local food because you're going to spend probably as much money. You're also on the coast, so you should get some sushi. I would be very jealous of that meal.
Are you going to be there, Dave?
I'm not going to be able to be at Celebration. Not going to be able to swing it. We are. That's why we went to Chicago knowing that was our best chance. We knew that we could drive up there and we'd be able to make it happen. But going out to Anaheim, going out to the coast, it's just a bit more expensive of a haul. But we're trying to do things at Beyond the Blast Doors in a way that will hopefully help us get there in future years. And that's one of the reasons why we're really trying to figure out a way to make our Patreon more worthwhile for our current Patreons and future, because we look at that as a way of, if you support us and our content, our conversation through that financial generosity, we want to be able to use those funds to get, someone to, a Star Wars Celebration to report and bring us unique content. But we are excited. Pete has agreed to be our Celebration correspondent this year. So that will be full, I'm sure, of technical errors and audio flubs.
What?
And Jackson running in the background with a bag on his head, and I'm gonna have to.
Well, I am going to have my kids and my wife at Celebration. Maybe it would be a good place to do that therapy session you seem to think I need. So
I don't think you need it. I think we all need it. I think it's. I think we're desperate now for some attention. It is. It's been an hour here on Streaming Star Wars.
Oh man, it's been a lot of fun.
We've had a blast. Hollow Chronicles. Oh, Andy says that Mandy and I should honeymoon in Anaheim.
I think you should. I think you should.
That's tempting, but I think if I asked for the honeymoon to be used and the time shared with Star Wars Celebration, I don't know how long that marriage would last. We bought our wedding bands today, and it was a really surreal experience because it's like, I guess that to me was like, oh, it's real, and it was pretty cool. Now, but if I'm like, I want to go get some Beskar metal and craft a wedding ring,
right?
She leaves me in the mall, and I have no way of getting myself back home. So we got to be really smart. I want to go to the beach.
You've got
also.
Uber out there. You can get home. Don't worry about it. Just go have some fun. Get a Beskar wedding ring.
You know how much a 2-hour Uber ride would cost? More than 500 Imperial credits to dock on Mos Eisley. I'll tell you that much, you jerk.
That was good. You brought it all back home. That was very well done.
Isn't that? I do this professionally.
You're a professional. That's right.
I had someone one time on Twitter was like, you say you're a professional broadcaster, but I just don't see it. You're not that great technically, and you say I'm a lot.
That was me. I'm sorry.
You jerk. You have another Twitter account. You must have 17 Twitter accounts.
I have like 25.
This is
Twitter
excessive.
accounts. Yeah, just so I can keep
Pete,
up.
Your wife's alone. Okay, give her some company, will you? She needs attention. You're only getting older, Pete.
I am definitely getting older.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about in this episode?
Probably not.
Andy, I don't know what you're asking. Something about are they engraved? I love you and I know. I guess he's asking about the rings.
Oh yeah,
I
from
thought
the
about
rings. Yeah,
doing
from
like shirts or maybe on the bottom of shoes. I don't know. I do want to do something with I know and I love you. Mandy even brought it up. That's how I know I have a
I
good girl.
I think it should be part of your wedding vows, and then but it's
Can you
not
imagine that
not
in
my
front of a
wedding.
church full of people and she goes, David, I love you. And I just go, I know.
Yeah, because see, okay, and this kind of all ties it together because the people who Disney
Everyone
Plus
bees me.
needs to go after are the people who wouldn't get that joke.
Yeah. I think you're right. Although I just had a force vision now. I think of my future father-in-law throwing a tomato at my face. You suck. I know.
And then Mandy would say he's no good to me dead, and it would be another Star Wars reference, and it would just get out of control.
Let's do this before we wrap up. Like, what are the best lines in The Mandalorian that I shouldn't say on my honeymoon? Let me start first. I can take you in warm, or I can take you in cold.
I think that's where we wrap this up. David and Pete have 10 glasses of wine among the two of them, and this is the way the show. It started with you describing your Christmas tree, and it's ended with this.
David, I love you. That's my line. Is there any more? I'm trying to think of what else is memorable in this show. I'm good. Oh wait, Holocron. Oh, Andy goes. Pete has the Phantom Menace account, a Raylo account, and a PT account.
That's right. I have nothing. I have it depends on my mood. I'll wake up in the morning and be like, you know what? I'm feeling kind of misogynistic and sexist. I'm going to open up my Phantom Menace account and just go on a tirade. And then the next day I'll be like, I feel like making some friends with strangers. So I'm going to start a Raylo conversation and go from there.
I got another one, Pete. I'm on the beach with Mandy, or maybe we're back in the hotel room, and I pull out a scanner, and I'm just like, you got some carbon scoring over here. And that's when she walks out of the room. That's too insider baseball of a Star Wars reference.
Yeah, I don't know if she gets that one though. She's a keeper.
I think I'd like that. Yeah. Andy goes, put that down. I don't know what you're referencing. That's gross. It's a family show. I got a Christmas tree back here. Damn it. It's 300 lights. Blue, orange, green, yellow. It's Christmas. Got Yoda. He's green. The child. Jesus.
The child. Right. Jesus. Christmas. Yeah. Very good. Well done.
It was a virgin birth.
All right. This is about to get ugly. So, yeah. So, hey, this was great. I look forward to doing it next week.
You wrapped that up just as well as a Trojan, let me tell you. Okay, so episode 5 of Streaming Star Wars. It has been an absolute joy. A big thanks to everyone in the live chat for allowing us just to talk Star Wars with you. This is Pete and I via text. This is Pete and I during the day. And you just spent an hour and 10 minutes watching it. So, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Big thanks to everyone in the live chat. Pete, anything coming up this week that you want to talk about?
My episode will be with Raj from the Sith List, Making Star Wars podcast partner. So it was a fun episode. We actually did it live, and the audio for that's going to go up. And hey, the Streaming Star Wars swag action is it's still, I think, on sale at TeePublic. So if you need a Streaming Star Wars T-shirt, mug, laptop case, pillow, sticker, strange. If you really if you want like a banner for your home that says Streaming Star Wars, if you want to wave that flag, you can now get that. I think it's up to 30% off at tpublic.com/user/streaming-sw.
If there's anything that Pete pushes more than his children in school, it's his own merch. You're a whore.
I am.
That hand to your forehead said everything. I don't know why I'm doing this. Hey, we're going to go live tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central Time for Beyond the Blast Doors. Going to have Jesse, going to have David. We're talking Rise of Skywalker. We're going to be talking a little Mandalorian. Jesse has some things that he wants to talk about, and that will be a more broad-based conversation than maybe what you heard tonight, so be sure you check that out. We got a toy review. He actually, Pete, he got the heavy infantry Mandalorian figure, that Best Buy exclusive.
Oh, awesome.
It is a nice
Paz
figure.
Vizsla.
Yeah, Paz Vizsla. We're going to be talking about that on the show. Really excited about that. And, it's not Star Wars, but Lego just dropped its new Creator Modular building. It's a library. It's like 2,000, almost 3,000 pieces. But everyone's saying that the minifigure in there is supposed to be George Lucas. So you found a way for me to talk about Star Wars for 10 minutes on the show. We're going to talk about all that stuff and a lot more. So be sure you join us there. Big thanks again for everyone in live chat. Remember, at StreamingSW on Twitter. You can always find us live on Beyond the Blast Doors YouTube channel. Also, that's where you can find the rewind. We ask you to share with your friends. Audio version will be available tomorrow on the Around the Galaxy podcast stream. Last thing we just ask for you is when we end this stream, please do us a solid and refresh your browser when the stream ends and comment down below with your favorite moment of the show. We have 20 people watching right now. It would mean the world to us right now if we would be able to have 20 people comment down below and just say what they liked about our show. We're rolling the closer right now. It's Streaming Star Wars. I'm Ammo. He's Fletzer. It's been a lot of fun to talk Star Wars with you. May you have a continued great weekend, and we'll see you soon. May the Force be with you.